This is the first video of work completed and lost to the fire. This was completely finished, this table. It is so massive and heavy. You can see us here trying to work out how to mount it. If you're into your resin, you'll like this video. It's really in depth. I'm prepping this wood without any big machinery. It's all done with hand tools, no router sled, for preparation that is, or no wide belt sander. So here we go, super in depth. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to slowly sneak up. This is going to be a natural edge, this join, all the way along, but I've got to try and sneak up on it looking good. And obviously there's no flat reference for the rowel or the saw itself. So it's going to be a kind of hand saw and then trim it off with a straight edge cut on the circular saw. And this just carries on until I slowly sneak it together and I get what looks like the right width for the total table and also quite a nice looking join. So this is the slabs roughly sanded and cleaned up. Now there was no, as you'll see in a minute with some more belt sander, there's not been for any wide belt. You can still see some saw marks. I'm leaving these as thick as I can before the resin pour because I'm actually going to build up any cupping underneath with resin, as you'll see. I'm using this belt sander as you've seen. This one is the Festool BS 105. I've spoke about it before. For this kind of job, it's amazing because it's got the frame and it just stays flat. It stops any kind of digging in and you can adjust how much it's taking off. I use it, I mean obviously you're going to use a random orbit for the finish, but I definitely use that a lot now as a kind of leveling tool if it won't fit in my wide belt or the wood's the wrong kind of shape. So here I'm just matching up some of the features just to give it a bit more symmetry, make it a bit more book match. So the wheels I'm using are cut saw wheel. I have a blue and a kind of yellowy. The blue is the coarse and the yellow is the kind of medium. Brilliant wheels. I must have had these, I don't know, 8 years. They're still just as good as new. So this is the top and I did the bottom as well. You saw, obviously you have to prep completely both sides, so whatever you got to do, you've got to do it all twice before you're going to go for the resin pour. So the table is over 3 meters, which is bigger than my pour table, so you can see I've just extended it on the end. So if we have a look here, we can see that you've got a gap under there, there's gaps under that one, big gap down there. These are incredibly flat considering the width and the length. These were sawn about 13, 14 years ago. I bought them 3 years ago. Even the top there you can see it's not level. But this is going to be the best way to get the maximum. These are about 70 mil and I'm hoping to keep somewhere in the region of 60 to 65 mil thick would be ideal. So I'm going to pour the resin initially without any clamps holding it down. Just going to give the resin time to settle and see if we want to cover the whole thing with like a couple of mil, just to allow any trap bubbles from underneath. So as always, I'm using the glass cast pigments. This is metallic bronze and copper. I kind of mix it as I go. I have spoke to the client about what colour they're trying to achieve and given them samples, but it's no exact science. Okay, so some of this is a bit long-winded, but I really wanted to show you all super in-depth on this so you can see, you know, what it is you need to do if you're going to do one of these slabs yourself, or if you're just interested. To be fair, it's been very difficult to bring myself to edit these videos that were done before the fire. I'm finding it really hard looking at the shop, but I'm kind of getting there. I've been working really hard on the new wedding venue. It's just not a great situation here with the filming at the moment. The light's rubbish, there's nowhere for the stand and the camera to go. It's just all a bit of a mess, but I am videoing as much as I can, so that will come once I get through the backlog, showing you guys what I've already done. So it's early the next day. We're gonna have a look at where we are. Now if we find a piece here, you can see that it's not, I don't think it's not sticking to my finger, but you can see my fingerprint, and that will eventually go. That's the B stage. Even here, let's stick it in there. There's my fingerprint. Clean hand. So now it's just a case of mixing up as many of those buckets as you need to top the whole thing off, completely cover this just with a few mil. So I'm using a cool table and some fans and air conditioning, but you can see here how I'm just about moving it. I can stand that up in there. For me, that's about the right time to start getting the crazy patterns building up. Down on this edge here, just stirred this actually, you can see this is a bit softer, less mass, so this is not as cured. This has been going for, I don't know, 35 hours now, maybe 30, 35 hours. We're just starting to get the nice patterns in there, kind of silky, rich patterns as it brings the metallics to the top. Little bits, you can just get a syringe, they're really cheap. Glass cast is so liquid, you can see that's just gone straight in. And this problem here, you can squeeze it in, and you can see it really slowly squeeze it in, and it sort of pushes the air out. You're going to have to do it more than once. Do that on all the big splits. You can see just how easy, this is just a cheap syringe. I think I've got a link in my description for Amazon store, so you can see it just sucks up, that just squirts. Very easy. Go around all your big holes and just slowly push that in. This is a lot of resin, so I'm going to get the fans on to keep this thing freezing. I've got my pool table on, it's been on for 2 days now, so let's just hope to keep the temperature right down. It's about 12 in here at the moment. Okay, so this is about a week later, 7 to 8 days later. I'm going to break it out of the mould. I will not be machining it for another 5 days at least. It needs to seriously cure before you do any kind of electronic machining, any high-speed machining, because you just heat the resin up too much. if you're interested in this router sled, check the description for links below. I have plans on my website which you can download and build one yourself, or if you're in the UK you can fill in the form letting me know your maximum slab dimensions, and I can get you a quote including delivery. So the slab's been flipped and we're on the underside. So always nerve-wracking when you're doing this on a big slab this long and this wide, keeping the meat on it, as they say, but also you can't just simply stock slabs that are 100mm and machine them down to what the client wants, because removing so much material from slabs, even if they're kiln dried, can really make them unstable if you do move too much too quickly. So no matter how careful you fill the mould, this is the underside I'm filling, there's always a chance the little air pockets get trapped, especially if the slab's pretty flat when you put it in the mould. So this is just filling the underside, sometimes using the quick epoxy. For the bigger fills I use glass cast 3. Some of the 5-minute epoxy that I showed you, it's on my Amazon store. If you do want to buy it, I would buy it in bulk, because it often is out of stock on the Amazon website and I don't know where else to buy it. So the key is just get it really hot. It gets it really runny. By the time I get to the other end of this table, sanding, I'm at the coarse grits at 120. By the time I get to the other end, this will be ready. Change grits, come back. This will be ready to sand within like 10 minutes really, if you get it warm enough. So you see I heated it up in front of the fire there. I'm going to get heat gun on it in a minute. That will get rid of any bubbles and really help cure. It's already, I can feel it from the fire there. It's already going quite heavy, thick, which means it's curing quickly. We'll just get a bit of heat on there. Now this is the underside of the table. I wouldn't repair a big mark like that with this type of epoxy on the top, because I'm not 100% sure about the UV stability. If there was damage on the top or needed repair, I would use glass cast 3 and I'd have to wait 24 hours. Come back to that in about 20 minutes, it'll be fine. As always with the sanding, there's no secret or magic here. It's just taking your time. I don't want to film me standing over a bit of wood, sanding it for hours on end, but I do sand it on and off for days, working through the grits. And as I always say, anything below and up to 120 grit, you really need to take your time to get those marks out. So stay on the 120s, keep throwing the paper away, it's not expensive, keep using fresh paper. 150 is a good grit to spend a lot of time on. Okay, so this box section's even bigger. I believe it's 90/90, so it's really big. We don't have a saw to cut it. Will is an expert with an angle grinder. His full-time job now is fabricating. He's been doing it on and off since he's 15, so over 5 years. He's really, really good and accurate with this kind of freehand cut. And we're tending to do these legs quite a lot, so he gets a lot of practice. So as I said, what you saw in the other room, that was just sanding the underside, then the whole process starts again on the top side. The underside has been sanded to about 180, which is good enough to do the first oil, which is good enough for the bottom and for the oil finish this is going to have. So I'm now going to apply the penetrating resin to any of the sapwood areas, softwood areas. This is the Smith's penetrating resin. So this is a cool little trick. You can drop some water and use a really hot heat gun, just massage the area, and you can quite simply pull out little digs and dents. Walnut's really prone for it. It is a hardwood, but I do tend to dig it by putting something on it, you know, before it's been oiled, so I often do this. So as normal, I switch over from the Rotex here, just find this easier to use, just a bit lighter, and I start working through the higher grits. Because there's a big section of resin just in the middle, you can actually polish this to, or sand this rather, to like 1000 in the middle. You don't really catch much of the wood, and if you remember, this edge here has had penetrating resin as well, so it's really, really hard, the wood there anyway. Acetone is a good product to spray on here because it almost dries instantly. You can just see how the resin's shaping up and the marks, and then just wipe it off and carry on working. Get an idea of the size of the thing here. It is absolutely massive. So this is now the underside. I always do that first. This is Odie's oil. I'm buffing it on with a Scotch-Brite pad and a random orbit polisher. It's such a good point when you get here, all that hard work, and you're starting to see the finish. It really does. Odie's oil is so good with the resin and the wood as well. It's so easy to apply. Now you may spot here, the client wants it quite a dark walnut, and I've actually put some pigment in here. I've just used some Toy Safe oil pigment, but Odie's do their own sort of stain pigments, and I've got some of them now as well. They're really good. With Odie's, the less you can put on each pass, the easier it is to get it off, and that is the key with Odie's, getting it all off before you go over to the next stage. So I come across this polisher from Makita, and what's really cool is it has a rotary action, a bit like the Rotex sander where it's in power mode. So it's geared and you can push down hard. So I tend to use it with a Scotch-Brite again after I've applied the oil, let it set for a bit to really grind it into the wood. It's like a 1000 grit sandpaper really with the Scotch-Brite. Okay, so it's epic heavy, fully polished, really delicate, and we've now got to try and get it on the base to mark it and fit it. So 3 lift tables seem to be the way to do it. About to land on it. Well, it didn't go like that. Did it? No. You look at the cap. Should we pull the tables away so you can have a look? Wow. Oh wow. Right. Okay, so Will's put the mounting plates on the base, and you can see here we've got some C-channel which we've got on the legs, so it goes in one hit. I've started doing that on this design. It's really cool. Saves doing too many cuts in the wood as well. Okay, that just about wraps it up. Unfortunately, this table was completely lost to the fire. It was sitting on the Rui lift table in the room where the electrical cable, which was the start of the fire, went up, and so completely lost everything in that part of the building, the resin room on, nothing at all survived. The base, however, was sitting over by Will's workbench. There was no damage at all to anything in the metalwork area. And the main workshop, there was some water damage to some of the machines. and machines right by the door or anything right by the door of the pour room, they were damaged or destroyed by the fire. So it's about 6 weeks to 2 months work on a table like this. Now there was a world shortage of resin just after the fire, which means I had to buy every single glass cast that was available in small quantities from all the shops across the UK just to be able to remake the table. And I remade it immediately. I could get back in the shop for the client, and this is it in her home. So the base was saved, as I said, and I think me and the client both agreed that these next 2 slabs in the pile just look stunning, if not better than the original. I've got to say that the last 2 months remaking work that was lost to the fire has been some of the most difficult times I've ever had working.